Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Lit in English. And Each week we will have a gathering at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time over 12 p.m. On Thursday, Vietnamese time. And well, first of all, thank you for your presence. Thanks for being here with us in this journey and this mark our season 5 of Lit in English. Today, I have a very special presentation that I have been long sharing with everyone, and it is the human structure. But before we are presenting the human structure, let us do a quick review on what we have gone over in the previous presentation. So last week we shared about the root formula of life. And the root formula is one of the three symmetric reference system. And the human structure is going to be the second out of the three symmetric reference system. And the significance of the three symmetric reference system is that it can give us a lens or it give us a frame reference system in order to understand everything that happened around us. And through this three symmetric reference system, this is a very, very powerful tool to assist us in our not only our life journey, but especially in the journey of understanding our inner mind, understanding our inner world, and materialize the life that we want, the life that we desire. So the root formula tell us that there are certain things that has directly influence on our outcomes. And even though there are different organization, different um, company, and different way that people choose to create the life that they want. For example, some company would focusing on the character of their employee, while others focus on more on the habit, and some would focus on action and some would focus on thought. But we realize that all of those, even though it can use some result, those are only temporary result. It is about the mindset that directly influence on our choices in life, which directly created the outcome. Therefore, a personal mindset can arguably call the root of all. However, there's a step beyond that, and that would be the images through knowing, saying, seeing, and hearing. So if you missed out the previous presentation, I highly recommend going back to our recording. So for the root formula of life, we it is a build up from one of the four principles, which is the transformation principle. And there's a link to the two because the transformation principle tell us that we need to ask the right question. Specifically, we need to ask the positive question because by doing though, it will lead us to the transformation that that is favorable to us, favorable to our desire. So similarly, in order to acquire the outcome that we want, we need to have the right mindset through those questioning, or we need to have a clear image, a clear future vision, because that will lead us to the outcome that we want. And this can be called the foundation, um, foundational principle. All right. So moving on to the human structure. So in the previous presentation, it take a lot to draw out a lot of time to draw out the human structure. Therefore, I went ahead and draw the needed information. So as you can see, this is a human structure presented in one single case. And in order to start to explore and understand the human structure, we need to understand that there are three perspectives that the worldview of the human structure. And the first one would be through science. The second would be through conventional wisdom. And the third one is a more religious point of view through Buddhism. So according to Buddhism, deep within man is the Buddha nature. And in conventional language, this would be called the heart. So if we were to use a technical in a scientific language, um, the innermost of the human nature would be the genuine truth in oneself. So you can see the genuine truth. It consists of the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know. And it is enveloped by a radiant aura. Some might call this a Buddha nature, or some might call this a guardian angel, or a spirit, or a higher being. But we just know that throughout different culture in the world, there are concepts speaking of the innermost of the human nature. And there are teaching that share how we can acquire happiness, how we can achieve inner peace through the will to see, the will to hear, the will to speak, and the will to know. All right. And these are very, very critical, by the way, because when you're speaking of the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, it is the Buddha nature that contained deep within the human nature. And there are 16 human nature. That would be admission, imagination, action, and conscience. So would be the first four surrounded radiant aura. And then we also have prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, resting. And then the outermost layer of the human nature would be greed, anger, illusion, arrogance, skepticism, evil, and bias. And the wise men have taught us that the complexity of the 16 human nature with greed and imagination as the focus will form the nature of man, also known as the personality or our ego. And so routing the 16 human nature, and you can see the red and blue here, the zigzag. It is the inner yin and yang electromagnetic layer. All right. And after that, we have the 84,000 football illusion, commonly known as the layer of emotion or the human emotion. On the outside of the bubble of the illusion is the 4-element body, which include earth, air, water, and fire. And surrounding the 4 elemental body is the outer yin and yang electromagnetic layer. Right. So in order to understand what these really mean, please understand that these are a translation from the Sino-Vietnamese term. So for example, what admission is exactly? Admission would be receiving, taking in, and when imagining the past, it is remembering. But when imagine the present, that is just imagine. But when we imagining the future, it is contemplating, or that is questioning. Action can be understood as an endeavor, and here is mean projecting, as in projecting out the action. Conscience mean knowing, awareness. It's also mean knowledge. Prosperity is understood as money or talent. And then we have beauty. Beauty is physical beauty or look. Fame is like renowned. Fame is like getting well known. And eating is consumption. Resting can be like sleeping, taking a rest. And then moving on, we have the 7 element of the outermost, and we have greed, which is desire. Anger is higher. Delusion is misconception. Arrogant is superiority. Skepticism is suspicion, and evil is cruelty. Bias is stubbornness. Right. So beside those, and right now we'll just go into the quick information of the outer layer, and then we can go into what each of these mean, what each of these stand for. All right. So there's the important information that is when I invite you to get a piece of paper and a pen to write it down. There are 3 electromagnetic masses within us, and those are called bad karma. Then we also have good karma. And most importantly, we have radiant karma. Radiant karma. All right. So bad karma is also called negative electromagnetic mass, is created by making other people suffer, and it's contained in the human nature shell. And when this bad karma masses initiate, a person's life will encounter many undesirable things. Good karma, on the other hand, is called positive electromagnetic mass. It is accumulated by making other people happy and contained in the true nature of the shell. When good karma mass initiated, a person life will encounter many desirable things, many favorable things. And lastly, we have radiant karma, also called the balanced electromagnetic mass, like electromagnetic, or and it is accumulated through helping other raise their inner awareness and wisdom. And I'm going to repeat it. The radiant karma is also called the balanced electromagnetic mass, and it is accumulated through helping others raise their inner awareness and wisdom level. And it is contained in the true nature self. When radiant karma mass initiated, it will help balance one's life and it will open wisdom. So at the same time, the total karma is also stored in the unconscious of man. And there is three total karmic that we need to consider. And this is something that everyone have in their human structure. So this would be called total karmic. Up top, total karmic, and we have total karmic of knowledge. Knowledge. And we also have total karmic, um, what is called total karmic affinity, which means the total connection with one person in their innumerable lifetime. Total karmic knowledge is the total of all understanding in innumerable lifetime of a person. So, right, funny. And then lastly, we have a total karmic result. So when we discuss the total karmic of knowledge, affinity, and result, people often discuss about karma. And some may ask, like, do we have a destiny, or do we already born with a pre-arranged destiny? So the essence of man has no destiny, but we human have karmic destiny due to the total karma. It will decide where we are born, who our parents are, and what the result of our life today is our life. And most of the time, people don't think that their lives are decided by total karma. But when we really look at life, it is the total karma that decide this thing that present in our life. Now, this is the human structure. And what I have provided to you just now, it is it is more about the information that when we observe life, we can we can always refer back to the human structure as a whole. For example, the one layer that most people are familiar with would be the body that we have. And that would be the four elemental body: earth, water, air, the fire. And earth is kind of like the nutrition that we have in our body. Water, you might have heard of that the amount of water in the human body is contained like 90 plus some percentage. Air is like air that we breathing in, that is part of our body. Fire is what keeping us warm. And fire has an even deeper meaning because it is the will of fire, the fire of desire that lead you to a certain decision, a certain destiny in life. So even though it is very simple at just earth, water, air, and fire, each of these elements have a physical form where when we pay close attention to it, we can truly figure out how we feel inside. For example, if you were to uh, having lack of nutrition, your body will tell you to eat, to consume the nutrition that the body needs. Or when you get thirsty, of course, the body will ask you to drink more water. And similarly, air, you all need to breathe in order to survive, but you cannot go for too long without breathing. And fire is just the warmth of the body, or the fire, air, the desire that you have deep within yourself. So through that, you can actually have a better understanding of how our inner self is. Another element of the outer layer would be the 84,000 bubble of illusion, because the 84,000 bubble of illusion is a representation of our emotion. And through the years, scientists have done many research to show the importance of emotion and how the material of the materialization of emotion can tell us a lot about how we truly feel inside. And it is important that we express the emotion. Okay. And it is important because there is a research study showing that pretty much a scientist making an observation, and he realized that some of his patients have like back pain, but they didn't have any physical injury, right? So even though they don't have any physical injury, they still have back pain. And they find out that because the negative emotion that they have inside that actually causing them to have back pain. The 84,000 bubble of illusion can express our emotion, and by understanding how we feel inside and releasing that negative energy, that can actually have great benefit to our body. And that would be the outer layer. Now we are going to explore the 16 human nature, which are admission, imagination, action, conscience, then prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And then the outermost, we have greed, anger, delusion, arrogance, skepticism, and evil. All right. So when we discussing things like greed or desire, it might sound very negative, but the human structure tell us a different story. So this is a greater demonstration of the outermost layer of the 16 human nature, which are greed, anger, delusion, arrogance, skepticism, evil, and bias. So when we look at this picture here, greed would mean desire, but we have to understand that the nature of greed is the selfishness when it comes to the negative battery of it. The positive boundary would be generosity. So what does this mean? This means that the nature of the human is greed, right? It depends on your desire. It will determine the emotional cousins of greed, which is selfishness when it comes to negative. And what selfishness means is the desire for oneself alone, the desire for yourself. But when you have the desire for other people and you show your generosity, so that means you have greed for other people. You want good things for other people, and that's become generosity. So the nature in itself is not bad. It is bad or good depend on the situation. It is depend on the direction of of the human nature, or your nature. What about anger? Anger meaning ire or anger. You can just understand that anger is angry, but we must understand the nature of anger through the negative boundary and the positive boundary. So the negative boundary would be wrath, as in somebody is going to do something very, very bad, or the feeling of the positive side, which is satisfaction. Similarly, we have delusion. Delusion can be understood as misconception. And for the negative side, delusion would cause someone to show their foolishness. And the positive one would be clarity. You can see things clearer in your mind. Arrogant. Arrogant can be understood as superiority. The negative side would cause a person to feel inferior to other, hence the inferiority. On the positive note, instead of feeling inferior, you would have pride in yourself. You would feel good about yourself. Skepticism is suspicion. Okay? Which means in the negative side of it, it is a representation of doubting when we doubt other people. On the positive side, we trust people. So there are some people that we have our doubt about, but there are other people who have trust in them. So skepticism itself, just like the other four, it is balanced. It doesn't have any positive or negative side to it. But when it's come to the desire, um, one can feel either doubtful or trustworthy. The next one is evil. Evil understood at reality, and we must understand the nature of evil because at negative amplitude, one can be cruel to other, and that is cruelty. Where at the same time, on the positive amplitude of evil, a person can be benevolent, a person can be great and can help other people. And lastly, bias. Bias understand as prejudice. And the negative side, the negative amplitude of bias is stubbornness. A person can be stubborn. Or on the positive side, a person can be accepting. They can easier to accept. And the complexity of greed and imagination are the focus of human nature, right? Because the different level between greed and imagination can cause the different level of prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And this is very, very powerful because if you can just understand the seven outer layer and the five human nature in the next layer, you can literally understand how a person behave or what their desire is, right? So it is most familiar that people can find others to be greedy, to have anger, to have delusion, to have arrogance, to have skepticism, to to have that evil character and biases. But as we went over earlier, a person can also be good. A person can also be generous. They can be satisfied with themselves. They have clarity. They have pride in themselves. They trusting in other. They can be benevolent and they can be more accepting. So then the nature of human can be considered to be either good or bad. And what makes a person good or bad is often created by the imagination of their greed on prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And this is a problem that we see in our community, as in like in society as a whole, because people want to have happiness, or they want to have the peaceful mind, the inner peace in this chaotic world. But because of their greed for prosperity, their greed for beauty, their greed for fame, eating, and resting is causing their life to be more chaotic. And I'm confident in saying this because it is most common when we find someone to have a conception that if they had money, it will solve all of their problem. And when we go to school, that what we were taught at a young age as well, because when you go to school, the teacher would help you pick a major to study in, and then when you graduate, you find a job just to make enough money to live. And it might appear that the people who have more money, they live a happier life, but that is not the case. And why am I saying that? Because there are people who have the element of prosperity, who is wealthy, they still not happy. They still couldn't find that inner peace. There are beautiful people, like a model, for example. They they have that element of beauty, but they are still not happy. What about famous people? If you follow news and TV show, you can see that people with fame, they are still not happy. They have their own struggle. And what does eating mean? Eating can be like the desire to eat good food, to eat delicious food, and this can go the same for drinking your favorite coffee or drinking your favorite bubble tea. So people have desire for that. Resting is not just simply relax or sleeping. Imagine the desire to go to a five-star hotel resort, for example. That can be the desire for resting. Okay. So in life, you will find people who chasing prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And they believe that to help them be happy. And that is the illusion that most of us have. But if we were to take a step back and analyzing the people who have all five of these elements, prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting, we find out that even them are not happy. Even them have a problem arise in their life. And this is very important. This is extremely critical because you know what? The entire world itself, like every big company, every big corporation, they are all making the most money based on the desire of people to be prosper, to have wealth. The one of the biggest corporation in the world, the only focus they are focusing on is beauty, like makeup, skincare product, and there are industry like music industry, movie industry, and any other industry that can lead people to fame, to be famous. They can make a lot of money. Same for eating, like restaurant, five-star hotel resort, similar to eating, as I mentioned earlier, the resort and hotel traveling. And all of this, even though it might appear to make a person happy, research find out that that happiness only lasts for a very short period. And let's imagine that you like a shirt very much, like the sweatshirt that I'm wearing right now. I I used to like it a lot, and I was like, I have to have it. And when I bought it, I was so happy. I was so happy that I own the shirt, and I wear it almost every day. But that happiness only lasts for a few moments, a few days. And over time, I got used to having this sweatshirt, and now I just wear it. I don't think too much about it. So that feeling holds true for everything else in life. All right. So imagine instead of this shirt here, it can be a car that you really, really want, the shoe that you really, really want, or maybe even a mansion with a 7 bedroom, 7 bathroom, for example. This can only give you temporary happiness. It can only give you temporary inner peace. What about beauty? Okay. I'm lucky enough to have met a lot of beautiful people in my early years. And strange enough, even the beautiful people, even the beauty queen, they often feel like they are not beautiful enough when they compare to their friends. They when they compare to other model. So even beautiful people, they still don't have happiness because they still have that desire to have more. Same for famous people. All right. There is a famous story about the rock band Metallica. I know some people here know about Metallica. Metallica is a very popular rock band in late 80s, early 90s. So the story of Metallica is that one of their members got kicked out of the band. Nobody wanted to go to tour with him, and that member make a decision that he is going to create his own band. And he became so successful that he went tour all around the world. His CD, his record, sold millions and millions of copies. But the thing is, the entire world considered his band to be the second best of the world because everything that he has accomplished, Metallica even more was even more famous than them. If Metallica was number one with their album, with their song, the guy would be in second. And throughout his life, he struggled because he couldn't beat Metallica in any of the field. So even though he has a lot of fame, he has his success is immense. However, because of his greed because he didn't get what he truly desired, he is still not happy. He still couldn't find peace. Same thing for eating and resting. Okay, imagine go to a five-star hotel resort anywhere in the world, and you get to just rest, lay down on the beach, drink your favorite margarita, eating the best food that you want, whether it can be steak or lobster. You will get tired of it after 10 days, for example. And some people say that, oh, they can live like that their entire life. Believe it or not, you will get tired of it. And there is a famous study that they did on rat. And what the scientists did is that they would give the rat everything that they wanted. If the rat want to eat, they will give it food. If the rat wanted water, they will give it water. If the rat want to play, they can have that little spinning wheel that the rat can run on. So at first, the rat was very, very happy. They eat, they play, and they just sleep all day. But after a while, the researcher made the observation that the rat was actually becoming depressed. Their life, they no longer have any challenge in life. And strangely, some of the rat even committed suicide. They stopped eating and they become very sick. They became very weak. Right? And for human nature, believe it or not, we suffer the same way. One of the person that I admire a lot, and I love his success story, even though I don't wish his success story to to be upon me. But some of you might be familiar with David Cho. So David Cho is a very, very famous Asian American artist. And he is probably the best in graffiti. And graffiti is like the stuff that you can see when you travel to any big city. You can see like graffiti, draw on the building or draw on the bridge. But David Cho is that guy. Okay, he is one of the best, and he has made so much money from being a graffiti artist. So he has money, he has talent, not a bad looking guy either. He was famous and he can enjoy any type of eating and resting that he wants. And then there is a very famous story about David Cho is that the founder of Facebook back in 2006, or maybe 2004 or 5, one of the founder is a fan of David Cho, and the founder invited David Cho to do the painting for Facebook office. And the founder asked David Cho if he wanted to receive the payment in cash or in stock. And David, he loved to gamble. He's already had the success, and he decided to take the payment of $60,000 for his painting in stock. And the story become famous because when Facebook become public, thing was in 2013, the stock went up so much that David Cho became a multi-millionaire. He had like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But David Cho was already famous. He just gaining way more money. And through that story, he had way more money to spend. So even though he was already wealthy, he was already talented, he was already well known, the type of wealth that he acquired pushed him to a whole nother level. And David Cho is a fun guy, he loved to party. So all of the desire that you can think of in the world, whether it is uh, girls or gambling, all of it. David Cho he's done it all. We go to Vegas to party. We go to Macau in China to party. We go to Africa and to do all kind of crazy things. In these past recent years, David Cho was still wealthy. He still have a lot of money, but he often had to go to a rehab center because he he had tried it all, and those can only bring him temporarily happiness. He couldn't find true happiness, and he struggled with his mental state. And I love this guy. That's why I keep listening to all of his podcasts and hear an update with his life. And funny enough, like he, in the word of David Cho, when he's going to the rehab center where it costs like hundreds of thousands of dollars, David Cho got to meet all kind of uh, wealthy and powerful people in the world. Like he didn't say name, but he said that those people super powerful, super wealthy, but they still need to go to those rehab center for wealthy people, extremely wealthy people, because they needed help emotionally and psychologically. Now, the reason that I'm telling all of this story is because whether the 16 human nature, okay, whether you leaning for the negative side or whether you are leaning toward the positive side, and you might believe it to be whether good or bad, neither are good or bad, because if you are too positive, then it will eventually drop down to negative. And if you are too negative, eventually it will push you up to positive. Just like the story of David Cho, he started out not having too much money, born in a Korean immigration. He didn't have a lot of money, but he has struggled with all of the negative emotion. He struggled with all of the negative human nature. And through that, he had the desire, he has the drive, he has the fire in the full elemental body to work really hard to ship it to positive, if not extremely positive, extremely successful in all five nature: prosperity, beauty, fame, healing, and resting. But even that, David Cho is still struggle. And that is the story that you will find in the majority of the population of humans. Okay. But there is an answer. There's an answer to this entire picture, right? And that is the very center of the human nature. That is the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know. And researcher found a successful story of Buddhist monk or other spiritual practitioner all around the world. And even though they practice different religion, they are pointing toward one thing that resides deep within our human nature, right? And because we are borrowing this knowledge from Buddhism, the innermost that was called genuine truth in a conventional wisdom can be called the Buddha nature, right? So instead of human nature out here, we do have the Buddha nature in the innermost part of the human nature. And this is very, very powerful because the Buddha nature, or the innermost of the human nature, it is surrounded by a balanced electromagnetic energy. And scientists find out that people who practicing the innermost of their nature through admission, imagination that close to the Buddha nature, the action that is close to the Buddha nature, and the knowledge or call the conscience, the Buddha nature or the spirits or the guardian angel, whatever name that one might call. Believe it or not, they are all talking about the same thing. All right. And the beautiful things about the practice of getting closer to the genuine truth is that as one practicing admission, and let me make sure that I repeat to you what the admissions are. Okay. So admission is like receiving, taking in. So when one practice the knowledge, they are practicing what they receive, what they can sense. Imagining is what they imagining how it would feel like in this radiant aura. Action is the action that they take to get closer and constant in the knowledge that they can acquire, can withdraw through this very center here. And the word to describe this would be the state of inner peace. Some school of thought call this at peace, right? When you have inner peace, different, but when you actually is at peace, it is very, very powerful. And I love how the word at peace sounds very similar to happy. And that is the reason there are school of thought that focusing on more on happiness. Because when a person is happy, they can only find happiness from within themselves. And this is a reason that successful people who still struggle, like the Big Joe, they would have to go to a rehab center to to be more balanced, to find themselves, to find this inner peace. And you might have heard of the term that, oh, I found God, or I found something that is greater, and I dedicated my life to the universe as a greater being. Oftentimes, without understanding, they are speaking of this radiant aura or this radiant karma that one can accumulate over the period of time that they help um, others gain a greater understanding of wisdom. So there's a connection between radiant aura and radiant karma. And your total karmic of knowledge of feeling and result, it is best project when it immersed in the balance and energy of radiant aura. So why is it that a balanced energy is better than a positive or a negative energy? So you can imagine kind of like the ocean. The ocean is very salty and it is vast. So if you can be in a in a state of mind of being at peace, you are like the ocean when it does not matter if someone to add some salt into your ocean, it doesn't make your ocean any more saltier. Similarly, if someone were to add water into your ocean, it does not dilute the saltiness of your ocean. And this is part of the reason why radiant aura or radiant karma will also be called the balance of electromagnetic mass, considered to be having extremely high energy, because when you are extremely high, you don't get influenced by the negative or the positive. And by practicing that, you don't, the up in life and down in life doesn't influence you. Okay. Whether one is selfish or one is generosity, you get to remain balanced. Whether you're observing wrath or satisfaction, you can still be balanced. Whether you are observing foolishness or clarity, you are still balanced. And you pretty much you understand what the idea of I am conveying in. And a final example that I want to introduce to have a greater understanding is that the reason many people in the world and many different religious practice see the importance of being at peace or having the realization or the understanding of the innermost part of human nature, or in this case, let's just call it the Buddha nature, is because once they can connect to their innermost self, they gain great wisdom, they gain a great understanding of the world itself, as we discussed earlier about the 16th human nature and how it's moved the human world itself. How some people are drive toward prosperity. There are some people have their desire toward beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And because of that complexity, because of that interconnectedness, a personal life can be very, very chaotic. But through inner peace, our life can be balanced and we can see the beauty in the world. Okay. And I got another piece of paper to demonstrate an understanding that I recently got. And the human structure is can take like months, even years to understand. But this time I would like to borrow the principle of light to present to you a simple but great understanding of it. All right. So a couple of months ago, we introduced the principle of light. And what the principle of light say is very simple. Is that like, imagine you have a dark room and you want to get darkness outside of the room. Now, what do? Do you try to get darkness out of the room, or do you try to bring light in so that darkness will disappear? And the answer is simple, right? You just need to turn on the light. You need to be proactive, bring the light in, and darkness will disappear. Now, as simple as it is, we learned that by doing a simple gesture, we can simplify our life in the four category in life, which is the inner self, health, relationship, and finance. So that is a more complex part. Now, imagine if inner peace, if the light is the realization of the inner peace, the realization of the Buddha nature. And when we say that There's the will to hear, there's the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know. We are not talking about the human nature. We can use human nature as a reference, but when it's come to the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, there's a Buddha nature within us, or the spiritual nature that can be expressed as literally know it all, because it's have the total comment, the total affinity, and the total result. And it is very balanced. So the will is the will of the Buddha nature to speak out, or the will of the spirit of your true spirit, or your genuine truth, as Simon would put it. So through genuine truth, you acquire true knowledge. So imagine, okay, and I have this realization thanks to my friend Giovanni in the MA of Happiness. He was saying something, and I got some good information off of it. But here's what your body imagine, but I gained my own understanding. So imagine if the human nature, or the Buddha nature, or the state of being at peace is like a candle. Okay. And like I say, this can be spirits, this can be the universe, or this can be God, however you like to call it. But culture in the world, they are all talking about this, and to simplify it, just imagine this. You have a light, which is the representation of your genuine truth. And this is you, a stick figure. So in life, everywhere that you go, if you don't have the realization that there is a Buddha nature, or there's a genuine truth that spread light behind you, is following you everywhere you go, you might not be aware of this, but it will cast a shadow, okay? A shadow of yourself. Let's just go ahead and draw the shadow. So this is your shadow. And let's say there are other people that you are interacting with. Let's say another person you are interacting with. The way that you see them is actually based on the thing that you like or don't like about yourself. Okay. So everything that you understand of this world is shining through the shadow of yourself. And the reason that I'm using the shadow is the representation of darkness, representation of bad thing happening in life. For example, when you look at a person and you judge them that they are selfish, that the thing that they do are foolish, how you see a person is inferior to you, or you doubt the ability of a person, or maybe you can even be judge a person of their cruelty. And you might believe that you are good. But the truth is, deep within yourself, you have those negative human nature as well. You have accumulate the bad karma math in many, many lifetimes. And often when people look at one another, they tend to only look at the negative side. Okay. You might not hate them, but people often make a distinction between good and bad. They often judge people or judge an action of a person to be whether good or bad. But if a person that have been at peace, that they have acquired that inner peace, and they are allowing the projection of the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know. They actually becoming the light itself. So this is the same person, but instead, this time, this person become the light itself. And this person project out light. So there is no shadow. Okay. When you become the light, you no longer cast shadow. So in every interaction with other people, they can only see the light in you. And the shadow would be behind them. They no longer see the shadow. And this is very, very powerful. And I'm sure each and every one of us have the experience in the past where you see someone and they make you feel angry right away. That's how war happens. That's why people fight. But there are people who you met them and you have so much respect for them and you learn so much from them and they exude this such a warm and positive energy. And they may not talk much, just being in their presence, you feel that warm, you feel good about yourself. You feel like you have someone that you can look up to. And the positive energy that they exude to you make you feel good and make you want to do good. You no longer see the darkness in them, but precisely you no longer see the darkness in you because it is behind you. And when that happens, you can be happy, right? The experience of being happy around somebody is very, very valuable because at that time, you might be experiencing their Buddha nature. You might be experiencing their will to hear, their will to see, their will to speak, and their will to know. And through this, everybody, I do believe that I have found the solution to world peace, right? Because imagine if every single person in the world can gain deep understanding of how to acquire inner peace, how to truly find themselves, to find their true nature. In this case, we call it Buddha nature. Then everyone can be there, can be a light, and they only light up, and that will make darkness disappear. There's no longer shadow, but there's no longer negative thing or bad thing about themselves. Now imagine if there's a community instead of two people. Imagine if we have many members of a community, then each of these light can literally light up the world. And this will make the world very balanced, very peaceful. And of course, there's a lot of information that I was not able to express during such a short period of time. Because when people truly understand the importance of practicing and acquiring and cultivating the radiant aura, you will see a huge difference in the world itself, because people in the world will know how to fight the light, and they will find true wisdom. They will truly find peace, and everybody will know that the entire desire that we have in this physical world is just an illusion, right? And those illusion, though desire, even though it can bring us temporary uh, happiness, but it is not a long-term happiness. And there is a greater meaning to human being than people will, at the very least, learn to lean toward the positive side of human nature, and understanding the human nature, which is one of the three symmetric reference systems. At the very, very least, you will understand how to have a healthy body. You will understand the importance of understanding your emotion in the 84,000 level of illusion. And importantly, you will understand the 16 human nature, and you will understand how to lean in toward the positive side of the human nature. And through this, you understand that there's a way to gain and maintain prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, resting. And for those who practice in it and gain to a greater height, then you are though few who have a destiny, who have a mission to literally light up the world, where when people interact with you, you will light up their life. You will show them the light. You will show them the path to leave their shadow behind, to leave their darkness behind. Because when we see darkness, this means that we have lost our own light. And this is the reason when researchers study Buddhist monk or some religious practitioner, where they truly find the inner peace and practicing the inner peace. They know how to maintain, and they practicing on maintaining it. And this is through a short interaction with them, a person can be happier, a person can have wisdom, the person can gain the answer that they desired. And by having this, by understanding this, you will be able to do great things, right? And imagine when people like David Cho come around, where they have all this money, all this fame in the world, but they still need um, a rehab center with what they so-called expertise to help. But though people, they can only help temporarily because they didn't understand the human nature. They only give temporary solution, as we mentioned previous um, presentation about the root formula of life. Okay, when David Cho and other rich and wealthy and powerful people go into that retreat, the outcome that they want is to um, be healthier, um, emotionally, But the retreat or the rehab center only focused on the character. They only focus on habit. They only focus on the action, or they can only focus on thought of their patient. That doesn't give the permanent outcome. It's only provide the temporary outcome. The root formula of life tell us that we need to focus on mindset. We need to focus on the images that we have in mind, namely knowing, saying, seeing, and hearing. Because this is the way to attain inner peace, to be at peace, to work on our radiant karma, to exude light. And that is the ultimate, deepest uh, accomplishment of any human being. And I can say this with confidence because fortunately I have met many, many great people um, who I am very proud to call my teacher, my mentor, my coach, my great master. They acquire not only success in wealth, in beauty, fame, eating, and resting. They truly find inner peace in and of themselves. And each day, every day, their action uh, is making the world a better place. And I guess the most famous of all is Elon Musk. And it's not just him, everybody else that I have the pleasure to learn about are doing just that. Even Mike Tyson, a heavyweight boxer, uh, he he uh, he is doing he is doing human development as well. Believe it or not, he having a program to help younger generation understand how money works, how how to improve themselves, to gain the skill that they need to do well in life, have a good life. But you know what? All of that is only temporary. All of that is only the first step. The uh, the true destination is to live a comfortable life here, right now, getting this prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. But truly, it is the inner peace that we seek. And through the human structure, we understand the energy, the way that the universe operates precisely in the human world. I know there's a lot to this, but this is the reason we have these season, these presentation because through each of the presentation, we gain a little bit more uh, information. And this is the reason that some of my teachers, some of my mentors told me that this is a journey and we are a fellow journeyer, right? And in this journey, we have each other. And in this journey, we might see a beautiful flower on the side of the road. We may take some time to enjoy it. We might see the beautiful scenery, like, like mountain and river. But all of that, that's beautiful flowers is not a destination. We can enjoy it, but we always know that the uh, the destination of a journey is something even greater. And many times it is not about the destination, it is about the journey. And for that, I thank you for joining me on this journey and many more to come. And through this journey, I actually gained a much greater understanding of all of it. And I would like to thank you for joining me. It's my teacher, my mentor, coach, for presenting these amazing knowledge. And it's had a huge impact on my life and others. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and I will see you next time. All right, bye-bye.